Hey, welcome back, everybody, to yet another great interview here on the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus with Lou Lombardi, a.k.a. Loudini. Today, my very, very special guest is Ariel Hyatt, the founder of the successful PR firm Cyber PR. She's an international speaker, author of 4 books, trademarked her Cyber PR process, and this marks the intersection of social media PR and online marketing. Her PR method is taught at several universities. However, she is best known in her industry for her ability to simplify and explain things that creative minds don't necessarily love, like PR, marketing, and social media. Ariel Hyatt, welcome to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. So good to meet you.
So good to be here. Thanks for that very amazing introduction. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay. So tell us, so you have all these great accolades. You've been in this business for a long time. You've helped so many people. Just so my audience knows, some of the clients that you've worked with are the Brian Setzer Orchestra, John Popper Project, Wendy and Lisa from The Revolution. I remember them from the 80s. The Jerky Boys, Bowling for Soup, and Duran Duran.
True. This is true.
So how did you? So let's go back. How did you get started in the music business?
The short answer is,
okay.
right. No one would give me a job, so I made one up, pretty much. Let's see. Like many of you listening in, I got a liberal arts degree. I'm not a musician, but I am very into the arts, and so I had a theater degree from a small Yankee university, and graduated, and to the not delight of my parents, moved back in with them.
Okay.
I do have the fortune of being born and raised in New York City, so location-wise, that was a good pole position to get into the music business, and then started the humbling 6-month job search. I got a little internship at classic rock radio station WNEW-FM, so that was my first paying gig in the business. And at nights, I worked at record stores, at a record store called NYCD. For those of you who don't know what a record store is, that's where people used to buy the music. And it was great.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You know, that's just in case there's anyone listening that doesn't know that. So those were my first 2 jobs, I would say, in the music business. So retail side, radio side. And then, as luck would have it, I ended up at a tiny record label called What Are Records, which was founded by Rob Gordon, who had been fired from EMI. And Rob and I and a team of 12 other people ended up really kicking butt, and we sold 1 million albums for a band that had been dropped from Arista Records called The Samples. And I worked with Rob for a year, and that's where I really got my chops in the music business, understanding pretty much everything I still use 22 years later, which is how to keep your audience happy, direct-to-fan marketing, everything that I learned at What Are Records, which I learned from Rob, selling all those albums and touring with The Samples, applies to social media and what I do today. So that was my start.
Okay, so when did you start this very cool cyber PR? I've been following cyber PR for at least 10 years, I believe, just following your emails and everything for a long time. So when did you break out on your own and get cyber PR up and running?
I broke out on my own after a year, a little bit over a year at What Are Records. I got a job working for a concert promotions company, did that for a year, and I got fired. I got fired because, the concert industry is a place where lots of crazy people work. And I was living at the time in Boulder, Colorado, and there were no jobs. There was no, unlike in New York where there were many possibilities, there were very few. I founded, at the time it was called Ariel Publicity. I very creatively named it after myself.
That's right, Ariel. I have old emails with that Ariel publicity. Yeah,
there you go.
That's how
yeah,
long. That's how long. That's where I think I started with. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Wow. Yeah. So in 1996, I founded a traditional PR firm, and we launched. When I say we, that's really me and a pile of business cards. We launched at South by Southwest 96, and I was a traditional publicist for 10 years, and my core client base was, because I was out of Boulder, Colorado, touring musicians, and that was during the time where the hippie jam bands were really, really kicking butt.
Okay.
And I worked with a lot of artists that made their livings on the road. And I was a booking agent. I did traditional tour PR and some national PR. I moved my business 7 years in. I moved back to New York City, where I'm from. I started noticing around 2000, 2001, and then I really noticed after September 11th a massive sea change in how the media was receiving, especially the types of artists that I was representing. And I like to say, I mean, you just named the largest artists that I've worked with, but truly my client base has been independent artists who are non-major affiliates. So I've worked with 3,000 artists, and probably, we could only name about 20 or 30 that might be household names. So mostly my work has been with emerging artists. And I could see that there was less and less room for them to be included in large dailies and weeklies and newspapers and magazines, television. Then when the radio act happened, we all know what happened there. There was no
Right.
chance of them getting on any radio. And then the papers started firing their entertainment editors, which were my bread and butter. And I realized if I didn't do something to transform my business, I wouldn't have a business. And so at that time, the internet was just taking off. Social media that term didn't exist. It was, web rings and listservs and web
News groups.
News groups, exactly.
Yeah.
And I started finding pockets of enthusiastic music fans, and that's where I focused my attention. And the rest sort of, out of the sheer frustration of not knowing how to produce results for my clients, I taught myself how to use all of those things, which then, of course, emerged into what we know now.
So while a lot of the business was running away from indie acts, if you will, you sort of said, "Aha! Here's an opening. Here's something that I can do." Didn't that scare the living crap out of you? Or are you fearless?
No, I'm definitely not fearless. It's funny. No, I think what I realized was it was more motivated by my disdain for having to talk to upset music journalists. Being a publicist, for those of you who have never tried it, is really not so fun.
Okay.
And I just thought, if I have to call John Perellis one more time, I'm gonna cry. And when you're a publicist, there's this the managing of expectations part of the puzzle is really tricky, because artists and clients come to you and they expect the best that, they give you their best scenario, right? I want to be in Spin, I want to be in Rolling Stone, I want to be on NPR, I want to be on Conan, I want to be on Late Night, I want to be, in the LA Times, the New York Times. And as a publicist, that the chances of that happening, especially for an emerging artist that's not signed to a major label, that doesn't have a big fan base yet, that is a real long shot. And it was really hard. I spent a couple years just thinking, I can't do that. I mean, it wasn't in my wheelhouse. Yes, I could do it when I was working for George Clinton or Duran Duran or any of those larger acts, but the truth is everything happens in due time. And when you are in a position like a publicist or a radio promoter or anyone that's into marketing, there's a whole misconception that hiring someone like that helps you jump to the front of the line. And it's just not true in my experience.
Okay, so this is a good point, because I think that a lot of people who hire music business professionals out there, and there's a lot of very good ones, it's a sort of like thing that they automatically think, well, this is it. This is the silver bullet that's going to like get me right where I want to go.
Absolutely. And you think, well, they worked with Radiohead, so therefore my star is rising next. So truly it had less to do with fear and more to do with, as an entrepreneur and as someone who's spent my entire adult life creating my own business, it was intolerable for me to carry on as a publicist, because I truly knew that wasn't what I liked to do. Mm-hmm. And I was really turned on by the internet and by social media. It really suited my personality. It suited how I like to communicate. I actually really do love most social platforms. I love Twitter. It wasn't hard for me to adapt. And so I would say that the fear gave way, if there was any. It was more frustration, gave way to excitement and, wow, this is something interesting. I felt like I was, I had to relearn everything, because traditional PR does not work in the social media realm. So it was very fun to take myself on a journey of having to learn something new. And I really relate to my artist clients, because that's what everybody has to do in today's music business. We all have to keep learning. Once we think we figured something out, Spotify launches, or Apple Music launches, or the next big thing that disrupts everything, YouTube monetization. You always have to kind of stay on top of what is the new paradigm. And so I'm a learner, and I think that's been the best, and that's the best way I can say that's really helped me to get on top of all this stuff.
What is the cyber PR process?
The cyber PR process is, unless you take an integrated approach to your marketing and your PR, you're not going to get very far. So the purview that I had was looking through the lens as a traditional publicist. And if those of you who don't actually know, that means, and it's kind of dead now, but back in the day it meant you write a press release, you blast the press release out to a list of appropriate journalists who you think will pick up on what the press release is about, and there was a formal way of communicating how to get an article written or a piece done. So that's part of cyber PR, the old school traditional PR, and that's still sort of the ethos of how we do business and how we founded the system. The second piece that got added to it was internet marketing, email newsletter marketing, understanding the science of how many people open your newsletter, how many people are you adding to your newsletter list every year, really looking at your direct connection to your fan, which is very different from your direct connection to the journalist world or the people that can write articles about you. So we added that piece in. And then the third part of cyber PR is we look at social media. We look at, is your fan base growing? Are people catching on? Are people talking about you? We focus on all 7 of the social sites with a giant emphasis on Twitter, which is our favorite one here. And if you don't actually understand how to use social media, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. You're not going to get very far. So it's those 3 things. It's traditional PR and having a real professional look and feel. It's understanding that's one side of the house, mixing it with social media, two-way conversations, and blending in, really building your newsletter list, building your fan base, making sure you're touching your fans consistently. It's one of the oldest articles that in the disruptive music industry was Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans, good old Wired magazine, and it's still a foundation for us. If an artist can have 1,000 fans that pay him or her $100 a year, you've got a shot at a decent life. And we still use that model. So that's cyber PR.
Give me, I don't know, maybe give the audience maybe one or two things that they can do on social media, because I know that you believe that it's really important. I understand why you're saying that. Social media is very important for musicians. Like maybe a couple things, a couple of tips, social media tips that like a takeaway that they could use, that they could do on themselves easily.
Sure. So the first thing I would say, it's less of a tip and more of a mindset.
Okay.
We're living in a world now that accentuates giant numbers. You know, Lady Gaga had 1 billion views, 1 million streams. We're living in this crazy time where unless you have 1 million of something, you're not good or you're not going to succeed. And then, of course, there's all this horrible news about how much 20 million streams actually pays you, which is, 50 cents or something horrible. But so the mindset I would say is when you're going to approach social, think micro, not macro. Think about touching or connecting to or interacting with one person. And don't get all caught up with, I don't have 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 or whatever crazy big number. If you can inspire or touch one person, you are beginning to understand how to use social media. So micro, not macro. And that means just responding to people that talk to you. And not just like liking something or thank you or a little smiley face, but like really thoughtfully commenting on what someone says to you. That would be my first tip. Get a real relationship going with 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 people, and it doesn't matter which channel. You can share photos on Instagram, you can leave thoughtful comments on Facebook, you can send each other an @message or a direct message on Twitter. The vehicle is not important. The communication is.
To create use the social media to create real relationships.
Correct. And this goes against sort of the panic that sets in for most of us when we turn on a social stream and there's like so many people and you don't know what to look at and this person looks stupid and this one's bragging and this one's sharing something that's too private and this one's eating a tuna sandwich and I don't care. You have to kind of let all of that go and try to find one person to have a meaningful interaction with.
So one thing that I've always said to people was that they forget is the first word of social media is social. And social means hanging out, talking, getting to know people, having interesting conversations and creating good feeling.
That's right. And I wrote a famous article that I think got 1 million shares or something. Not even, maybe it got 10, but it was good. And it deserved 1 million. Damn it! It was amazing. I don't know, whatever it is. But the point is, the article is called "I Wish It Wasn't Called Social Media," because to your point, it's the media part that trips us up, and it's our attachment to. If the media doesn't care about me, I don't count. And this is. Which I think is one of the oldest problems with when we think about fame or think about how we're going to get somewhere. We think, well, if the media doesn't pay attention, it doesn't count. So that's that. Yes, social is the leading word, but media is the one you should just totally ignore.
Okay. Well, speaking of social media, boy, I'm taking tons of notes here. Speaking of social media, what is Social Media House? And explain, you have some sort of giveaway or something going on with this. Could you talk about that for a second?
I'd love to. So Social Media House is, again, as I was thinking through cyber PR, which is this process, I like processes. And to me, when, my dad is an artist. And so I've spent my life looking at how artists think. And business systems and processes normally not high on the list of how a creative mind functions. And so Social Media House, it was my way of approaching the whole social media puzzle. So it was grounded in my first book that I wrote called Music Success in 9 Weeks, which was a 9-week system. And I wrote that book before Facebook even came into the market. And it's been obviously rewritten now to include those social platforms. But Social Media House was a system that I set up so that I could explain to our clients how to build an effective presence online. And I did it just like you would build a house. So start with the foundation, get that right, then frame the door, then go up and build the house, and the chimney is the last piece, right? So, or the roof would be the last piece. So I sort of thought through the different rooms of the house, the different elements of the house, and Social Media House, because I do love the number 9, it is a 9-week system, and I created an online course starting with how to think about your social marketing, going into websites. Week 3, we talk about Facebook, then we move into Twitter, then we go to YouTube, then we go to Pinterest and Instagram, then we talk about newsletters and blogging, and finally on the last week, we talk about monetization. How are we going to all make money now that we understand the foundational stuff? And so Social Media House is a course. It's taught by me and some of my team members here at CyberPR, and it is a primer for those that have never really done social or done it in a systematic way. And it's a refresher for those that already feel like they have it all sorted out. It is a work in progress. Social media never stops. Getting your website tweaked never stops. Making sure that you look and feel a certain way online never stops. So that's what it is. And it's I used to, for about a year and a half, I sold the course for $300. And all of this Apple news got me so upset this past spring. And before Miss Taylor Swift helped us all out by really making a point that it's not fair that artists should give away all of their intellectual property so that Apple can get us hooked on their products, I said, you know what? If every artist I know has to give away their IP, I'm going to give away mine. So I made Social Media House free. And I am so delighted. There's a couple thousand artists taking it right now, and it's going to stay free. It's up on my blog, and I want to share it with as many people as possible, because if you don't get this stuff right, it's going to be really hard to do your dream.
Okay, well, it's free. It's up on your blog. How do people get to it?
You can go to cyberprmusic.com/blog. And you'll see all the weeks are getting posted as I move through it.
Simple, like it, easy. Okay, you have written 4 books now. All right, and your latest book just came out, right? CrowdStart.
Well, this is actually interesting. It did not come out.
It did not.
It did not.
I read somewhere it was coming out in spring of 2015.
No.
I
know, because that was sort of wishful thinking. It's not going to come out because I am actually I'm working on a bigger book. I have a tentative book deal, which is very exciting. It's going to be my first non-self-published book.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So my book was going to be all about crowdfunding, and instead of that, I'm going to make more of an entrepreneur's guide. And I'm going to instead turn the crowdfunding course into an online program. So I should be launching that within the next, I would say, middle of 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, so at this point, CrowdStart is not starting. But I really do believe that crowdfunding is a very important element for those of us who do need to get money and to fund whatever the next project, the next dream. And so I will be launching a 30-day, step-by-step, hour-by-hour, minute-by-minute, day-by-day crowdfunding platform program. So
that sounds fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot of confusion about how that works, so that's fantastic. You've given away so many great tips, and you're giving away this great course. But I have to ask you, just one. What's the biggest mistake that artists make when they're trying to build a career? Is there one giant, just no?
I think there is.
Okay.
It's funny because I'm sort of vacillating between which one is the biggest no. I would say the one I see that stops artists and takes them down is the impatience. The biggest no is expecting that as Seth Godin so eloquently put it when I interviewed him, that there is some magic Santa Claus in the sky that's going to come and save you. That there's that one moment that we all believe is supposed to be the moment, the moment on American Idol where you get picked, or the moment where you get cast in The Voice, or the moment when, Jimmy Iovine or Clive Davis discovers you. That moment, for like 99.9% of us, it doesn't happen. And we live in a world that focuses on making us believe that that is a reality for everyone. Everybody watches Shark Tank, right? And we're waiting for this moment where, you're going to make all the money, get the big deal. That's not how it works for us mere mortals. I think that that's important to understand, is that success, especially in the music business, is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you have to get really, really clear about what a great, successful moment can look like, because you can miss them while you're waiting for Clive Davis to show up, or while you're waiting, while you're waiting for your huge break so you can go on that tour. Whatever your dream is, it could happen. I'm not here to dash dreams, but I see artists who get out of gratitude and get out of the game because they're overwhelmed and exhausted, and they're not willing to see when the victories are actually happening. They're just focused on what's not happening. And that is the biggest mistake I see. The artists that I've seen succeed, and I've now been in 22 years, and there's career artists that I've seen from my first couple of years in the business, they're still doing it. It doesn't look anything like it used to look for them or for us or for anyone. I'm working with Chris Barron, the lead singer of the Spin Doctors, who I followed enthusiastically in the early 90s before they even got signed. And, he's on the phone with me once a week coaching, and we are working on all the same things I work on with any one of my other artists, even though he sold nearly 8.8 million records and has toured globally and has had #1 hits, and he's been on the cover of Rolling Stone. And if you're making judgments about whether or not you like his music, that's not the point of what I'm saying here. He is just like every other artist that I work with, whether they're 17 years old or 67 years old. He's got to relearn how to build his mailing list and how to find his fan base and how to book smaller gigs and how to speak in a way on Twitter that appeals to his fans. And that's the relearning that we constantly have to do. So that's my advice is, it's not easy for anyone. It's not easy for people that used to be on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. It's not easy for anyone out there doing it. It is work, and it requires patience, and that's the mistake I see, is the rushing, the impatience. We work with so many artists that they want to put their album out next week, and we say, okay, why? Do you have a release party? No. Do you have something huge happening like a tour? No. Well, why do we have to put it out next week? What's the thinking? It's very easy to be to feel like you're in a place of urgency.
So the biggest thing then is the sort of mindset, is what I sort of deduced or sort of boiled down what you were explaining there as they have a sort of like impatient, I want it all and I want it now. And I think that's societal in a lot of ways too, and it's not the biggest surprise that doesn't bleed over into the music business or any other business. So that's great advice, guys. I hope that you took that to heart. That was great. Thanks for sharing that. You help a lot of people who are in, like, musicians who are building a career and stuff. But what about somebody who wants to do what you do? Somebody who wants to get into music marketing, helping musicians. Do you have any words of wisdom for them?
Yes, I do. Funny you should ask. My piece of advice is, it's sort of the same thing I would say to artists. Don't wait for anyone to give it to you. The thing that's so cool about what you can do the minute you stop listening to this broadcast, or the minute you can do it right now, just get on your computer, find one artist, one record label, one festival, one music venue, one solo violin player. I don't care what it is. Find one person and help them. Don't wait for the cool PR firm or the hip indie record label or the person that you think is going to give you the job to do it. Go make your own job. And if they can pay you in used furniture, or if they pay you in session time, or if they pay you in vocal lessons, or if they pay you in chocolate chip cookies, I don't care. Whatever it is, take the gig, get yourself some experience. I'm always shocked when people that want to be in marketing or PR come and they want to have an information session with me, and I say, well, what are you doing? Oh, nothing. Like, really? Twitter's out there. You know, you can turn your computer on and literally in a couple of hours through your network find a musician or an artist or anyone that needs help. Use your intuition. Use the amazing blogosphere. Read one of the 350 articles I've written about how to do this stuff. There's also, of course, a lot of amazing people, Bobby Arsinski, Madeline Sklar, Bob Baker. There are so many people, Lou, you're listening to Lou, so many people giving away great information. There's no excuse. So you can make up your own little business, start it now, and then when it comes time to get hired by a marketing agency, a PR firm, a label, a studio, whatever your dream is, you've got your track record and you've proven that you're viable. That is what I would suggest.
Working with Ariel. How, if somebody wants to work with you, Ariel, what do you have available? How do people get in touch with you? What's the process? You like process?
I do. I love processes. You can come to cyberprmusic.com, and right there on the bottom of the page it says interested in working with us. Click on that link, and you will there find a lot of information about what we do, where our rates start, and if you see something that resonates, please fill in what it is you're interested in getting from us or what you want for yourself, and I will call you, or Bonnie from my Los Angeles office will call you, and we'll talk to you about how we may or may not be able to help, but we'll talk to you either way, and that's how you can get involved.
Okay, and that again, what is that website again, Ariel?
It is cyberprmusic.com.
Okay, very good. This has been a wonderful discussion. I've learned a lot, and I know that a lot of the indie artists and musicians that listen, I hope you guys took copious notes. But don't worry, because you can always play it back and listen to it again and again and again. Ariel, is there anything else you'd like to add before we close?
But thank you so much. And, for those of you who are getting freaked out and like, oh, I can't do it, it's really mindset. It's really baby steps. And come hit me on Twitter. Find me if you've got a question. I'm at CyberPR. I always love to hear from artists, and I always love to help.
Ariel, by the way, is very easy to approach. She's very approachable, even though she has some, famous names on her website. She was, hey, I was able to talk to her. So you guys definitely you want to reach out and follow her feed and get on her mailing list as well, because even if you don't end up working with her or you're not ready to work with her as a paying client, there's tons of amazing videos and articles that she's written that are out there that are very. If you just take the free stuff and you work real hard, very often you can really make something happen. So Ariel, thank you so much. And it's just we're gonna end the call. We're gonna end the recording now. But if you hang on 1 second, I want to talk to you before you go. Okay?
Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to check out Ariel's website, and you can always tune back into past podcasts at podcast.loudinirockandrollcircus.com. We'll see you guys on the next show.